Picture the man who wakes up at 5 a.m. every day, never misses a workout, eats the same meals, and follows a strict schedule down to the minute. He's the poster child for discipline. Admired, even envied, for his iron will. But what happens when life throws him a curveball? When the market crashes, when a relationship ends, when a competitor changes the rules overnight. Suddenly, his rigid routines become shackles. He can't adapt, he can't pivot, and all that discipline turns into exhaustion, frustration, and ultimately failure. We're told that discipline is the ultimate virtue, the secret to success. But what if that's a lie? What if relentless discipline is actually a trap, one that makes you predictable, inflexible, and easy to outmaneuver? The truth is, the world doesn't reward the most disciplined man. It rewards the one who can read the room, change his tactics, and outthink everyone else. Discipline, when taken to the extreme, becomes a weakness. It blinds you to new opportunities, locks you into routines that no longer serve you, and makes you vulnerable to anyone who's willing to break the rules. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He saw that the most powerful men weren't the ones who followed the same path every day. They were the ones who could adapt, improvise, and strike when the moment was right. They used discipline as a tool, not a prison. They valued cunning, flexibility, and the ability to surprise their rivals. In this video, we're going to shatter the discipline myth and show you the Machiavellian alternative: how to become unpredictable, adaptable, and truly powerful in a world that punishes the rigid and rewards the cunning. From childhood, we're taught that discipline is the golden ticket to success. Wake up early, stick to your plan, grind harder than everyone else. These are the mantras of the modern self-help world. And for a while it works. Discipline builds habits, creates structure, and separates you from the lazy and the weak. But there's a dark side no one talks about. When discipline becomes dogma, it turns you into a machine. Predictable, rigid, and easy to read. Think about it. The disciplined man is reliable, but he's also stuck. He follows the same routine, makes the same moves, and reacts the same way every time. This predictability is a gift to anyone who wants to outmaneuver him. Rivals, competitors, even manipulative friends or partners can anticipate his every step. They know when he'll show up, how he'll respond, and what he'll refuse to do. In a world that's constantly changing, being predictable is a liability, not an asset. Consider the story of Daniel, a rising star in the corporate world. Daniel prided himself on his discipline. He arrived at the office before anyone else, followed a strict daily schedule, and never deviated from his plan. For years, this made him a top performer. But when his company faced a sudden crisis, a merger that upended the old order, Daniel's discipline became his downfall. While others adapted, networked, and found new ways to add value, Daniel clung to his routine. He kept doing what had always worked, even as the ground shifted beneath his feet. In the end, he was passed over for promotion, outmaneuvered by colleagues who were less disciplined, but far more adaptable. This is the trap of rigid discipline. It gives you a sense of control, but it also blinds you to new opportunities and makes you vulnerable to anyone who's willing to break the rules. The world doesn't care how hard you work if you're always working on the wrong thing. True power comes from knowing when to stick to your guns and when to throw out the playbook entirely. If you want to rise above the average, you need more than discipline. You need the cunning to adapt, the courage to improvise, and the wisdom to know when discipline is holding you back. Niccolò Machiavelli, the legendary strategist and author of The Prince, understood a truth that most men ignore. Predictability is not a strength, that it's a glaring weakness. In his ruthless world of court intrigue and shifting alliances, the man who could be read like a book was the man who was always one step away from disaster. Machiavelli warned that the disciplined, reliable leader is easy to anticipate, easy to trap, and easy to destroy. The real masters of power, he argued, are those who can adapt, deceive, and strike from the shadows. Why is predictability so dangerous? Because it gives your enemies a roadmap to your downfall. When your routines are set in stone, your rivals know exactly when and where to attack. They can set traps, exploit your habits, and use your own discipline against you. The disciplined general who always attacks at dawn is the one whose army is ambushed at sunrise. The executive who always follows the same negotiation tactics is the one who gets outmaneuvered by a cunning opponent who changes the rules. History is full of examples where adaptability and cunning triumphed over rigid discipline. Take the legendary Chinese general Sun Tzu, whose art of war is filled with warnings against predictability. Sun Tzu wrote, "Be extremely subtle, even to the point of formlessness. Be extremely mysterious, even to the point of soundlessness. Thereby you can be the director of the opponent's fate." His greatest victories came not from sticking to a plan, but from changing tactics on the fly, confusing his enemies, and striking where they least expected. In the business world, look at Steve Jobs. He was known for his ability to pivot, to abandon even his most cherished projects if they no longer served his vision. While competitors clung to their routines and product lines, Jobs was willing to disrupt his own company, kill off successful products, and reinvent Apple again and again. His unpredictability kept rivals off balance and made Apple a force that could never be easily copied or outmaneuvered. Even in sports, the most successful teams and athletes are those who can adapt in real time. The disciplined boxer with a rigid game plan is easy to counter once his opponent figures out his rhythm. But the fighter who can switch styles, change tempo, and improvise in the ring is the one who becomes a champion. The same principle applies. In every arena of life, the more predictable you are, the easier you are to defeat. Machiavelli's warning is clear. Discipline without adaptability is a recipe for disaster. The world is full of disciplined men who never rise above mediocrity because they can't break their own patterns. If you want to win, really win, you must become a master of surprise. You must be willing to change, to deceive, to keep your rivals guessing. In the game of power, the unpredictable man is the one who survives, thrives, and dominates. If discipline is the engine that drives you forward, strategic flexibility is the steering wheel that keeps you on the winning path. The most powerful men in history were not slaves to their routines. They were masters of adaptation, able to shift gears and change direction when the situation demanded it. To break free from the discipline trap and become truly formidable, you need to cultivate adaptability as a core skill. Here's how to do it, step by step. 1. The routine audit. Start by taking a hard look at your daily habits and routines. Where are you too rigid? What parts of your life have become so predictable that anyone could guess your next move? Write down your typical day, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. Identify the patterns that never change. These are your blind spots, areas where you're most vulnerable, being outmaneuvered. The routine audit isn't about abandoning discipline altogether. It's about spotting where your discipline has become a liability instead of an asset. 2. The controlled chaos method. Once you've identified your rigid patterns, it's time to inject some unpredictability. The controlled chaos method is about deliberately breaking your own routines in small strategic ways. Change your workout time. Take a different route to work. Rearrange your schedule. In social situations, surprise people by being less available or by changing your usual responses. This doesn't mean living in constant disorder. It means keeping others and yourself on their toes. Controlled chaos makes you harder to read, harder to trap, and much more interesting to those around you. 3. The adaptive response. Life rarely goes according to plan. The disciplined man panics when things go off script. The adaptable man thrives. Practice the adaptive response. by training yourself to pause and assess before reacting. When faced with a challenge, ask, what's really happening here? What's the best move right now, not just the move I planned? This mindset shift allows you to change tactics on the fly, respond to new information, and exploit opportunities that others miss. The adaptive response is the difference between being a rigid soldier and a cunning general. 4. The calculated rule break. Samit's the most powerful move is to break your own rules, on purpose. The calculated rule break is about knowing when your discipline is holding you back and having the courage to bend or abandon it. Maybe you skip a meeting to pursue a bigger opportunity. Maybe you break your own no negotiation rule to close a crucial deal. The key is to break rules strategically, not recklessly. When you do this, you become unpredictable and impossible to box in. People can't use your routines against you if you're willing to change the rules of the game. Scenario: the business negotiation. Imagine you're in a high-stakes business negotiation. Your rival knows you're always punctual, always follow the agenda, and never deviate from your talking points. He's prepared for every move you might make. But this time you arrive late, change the order of discussion, and introduce a new proposal out of nowhere. Your rival is thrown off balance. He scrambles to adjust, loses his composure, and starts making mistakes. By breaking your own patterns and adapting in real time, you seize control of the negotiation and walk away with a better deal. Most men will never escape the discipline trap. They'll cling to their routines, convinced that more discipline is always the answer, even as the world changes around them. But the few who master strategic flexibility become unstoppable. They're the ones who rise when others fall, who win when others lose, and who set the terms of every game they play. Don't just be disciplined, be adaptable, be cunning, and become the man no one can predict. Unpredictability is a force multiplier in the game of power. When people can't anticipate your next move, they become anxious, cautious, and hyper-focused on your actions. This psychological edge is what separates the average man from the Machiavellian master. The unpredictable man is not just hard to defeat, he's hard to even challenge, because no one knows where or how he'll strike next. Consider the story of a young executive named Marcus. Early in his career, Marcus was known for his strict routines and transparent strategies. His colleagues could always guess his next step, and while he was respected for his work ethic, he was rarely feared or truly admired. But after being blindsided in a major deal by a more cunning rival, Marcus decided to change. He started varying his schedule, kept his plans close to his chest, and occasionally made moves that no one saw coming. Suddenly, the office dynamic shifted. Colleagues who once took him for granted now watched him closely, unsure of what he might do. Rivals hesitated to challenge him directly, fearing what surprises he might have in store. Marcus's unpredictability became his shield and his sword. He was no longer just another disciplined worker. He was a player everyone had to respect. This effect isn't limited to the business world. In social circles, the man who is always a little mysterious, who doesn't reveal everything, who sometimes breaks his own patterns, becomes the center of attention. People are drawn to what they can't fully understand. They gossip, speculate, and even compete for his approval, hoping to be the one who finally figures him out. The unpredictable man commands respect not by demanding it, but by making others work for it. Unpredictability also triggers powerful emotions in your rivals and adversaries. The first is fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of being outmaneuvered, fear of losing control. When people can't predict your actions, they become defensive, second-guessing their own strategies and hesitating to make bold moves. This hesitation gives you the upper hand, allowing you to dictate the pace and direction of any interaction. The second trigger is uncertainty. Humans crave stability and predictability. When you deny them that, you force them into a state of constant alertness. They become obsessed with your next move, wasting energy and focus trying to anticipate you. This psychological pressure wears them down over time, making them more likely to make mistakes or reveal their own weaknesses. Finally, unpredictability breeds respect. In a world full of men who follow the same routines, say the same things, and make the same moves, the man who can't be pinned down stands out. He's seen as dangerous, exciting, and worthy of attention. People may not always like him, but they can't ignore him, and in the game of power, that's often more valuable than being liked. Cunning and adaptability aren't just survival skills, they're the keys to psychological dominance. When you become unpredictable, you become unforgettable. You keep everyone else off balance while you remain firmly in control. While strategic flexibility is a powerful weapon, it's easy to take it too far and end up sabotaging yourself. The biggest danger is mistaking adaptability for a lack of structure. If you abandon all routines and principles in the name of being unpredictable, you risk becoming unreliable, scattered, and ultimately ineffective. People who can't count on you for anything, who never know if you'll show up, deliver, or follow through, quickly lose respect and stop taking you seriously. Another common pitfall is confusing flexibility with laziness. Some men convince themselves that skipping commitments, procrastinating, or constantly changing plans is a sign of adaptability. In reality, it's just a lack of discipline disguised as strategy. True Machiavellian flexibility is intentional and calculated, not random or impulsive. It's about choosing when to bend the rules for maximum advantage, not about having no rules at all. To avoid these traps, you need to balance adaptability with core principles. Think of your life as a fortress. The walls, your values and standards, must be strong, but the gates, your tactics and routines, should be able to open and close as needed. Maintain a foundation of reliability, integrity, and self-control. Use flexibility to adjust your approach, not to abandon your commitments or your word. One practical way to strike this balance is to set non-negotiable key habits or standards you never compromise, no matter how much you adapt elsewhere. For example, you might always deliver on your promises, maintain your health, or protect your reputation. Around these pillars, you can be as flexible and creative as you need to be. Remember, the goal is not chaos but controlled unpredictability. Flexibility should make you more effective, not less. When you master this balance, you become both reliable and impossible to outmaneuver, a rare combination that commands respect and keeps you in control. To truly embody Machiavellian flexibility, you need to train your mind to value adaptability as much as discipline. Start by journaling your rigid habits. Each night, write down the routines or beliefs you followed without question. Ask yourself, did these serve me today, or did they limit my options? This self-reflection will reveal where you're stuck in patterns that no longer serve your goals. Next, practice making spontaneous decisions. Once a day, deliberately break your routine. Take a different route to work, start a conversation with someone new, or change your workout on the fly. These small acts of unpredictability build your comfort with change and teach you to trust your instincts in unfamiliar situations. Study the lives of unpredictable leaders. Figures like Machiavelli, Steve Jobs, or even military strategists like Sun Tzu. Notice how they balanced core principles with the ability to pivot, disrupt, and surprise their rivals. Let their stories inspire you to see flexibility not as a weakness, but as a mark of true power. Finally, visualize yourself as adaptable and cunning. Each morning, imagine facing the challenge where your ability to change tactics gives you the upper hand. Picture yourself reading the room, adjusting your approach, and outmaneuvering the competition. This mental rehearsal will help you internalize flexibility as a core part of your identity. Make these exercises a daily habit. Over time, you'll find yourself less attached to rigid routines and more comfortable with uncertainty. You'll become the kind of man who can thrive in any environment, outthink any rival, and seize opportunities others never see. Flexibility isn't just a tactic, it's the mindset of a true Machiavellian. Blind discipline is a trap that keeps you predictable and easy to control. True power belongs to those who are adaptable, cunning, and willing to break their own patterns. Audit your routines, challenge your habits, and start embracing unpredictability in your daily life. Watch how your influence grows as you become harder to read and impossible to outmaneuver. Reflect on where rigid discipline is holding you back, and make the decision to step into a more powerful, Machiavellian way of life. The world rewards those who can adapt. Become the man who sets the rules, not the one who follows them.